Hey man, the truth about relationships that most men learn far too late is that when a woman starts emotionally or mentally shifting toward another man, she doesn't announce it. She doesn't sit you down and tell you she's losing interest. She doesn't admit she's fantasizing about someone else when you're sitting across from her at dinner. Instead, the signs seep into the little things, the subtle changes in her behavior that seem harmless at first, but are actually seismic shifts beneath the surface. And if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Her energy is different. The conversations feel less connected. The warmth in her tone begins to fade, and the natural rhythm you once had with her is suddenly offbeat. It's not that she's already gone, but her attention, the fuel that keeps relationships alive, is no longer entirely on you. The first step in protecting yourself from emotional blindsides is learning to read these shifts for what they are. Signals that someone else is slowly stepping into the space you used to own in her mind. The first clear hint that she's got another guy in mind is that her time patterns start changing without explanation. In the beginning, you were a priority. She'd text you back quickly, carve out time to see you, and even rearrange her schedule if it meant being with you. But when another man starts to occupy her thoughts, she'll subtly begin withdrawing her availability. Not in big, dramatic ways, but in small, almost imperceptible ones. Suddenly, she's too busy with work, her phone is dying more often, and she's too tired to hang out, even though she still goes out with friends. The difference is that when it comes to you, the urgency disappears. She's not rushing to respond. She's not making concrete plans. She's living in a way that creates gaps in your connection, and those gaps are the perfect spaces for someone else to slide in. Men who miss this early change often wake up to find themselves wondering how they went from being the center of her world to barely being on her schedule. Now, it's important to understand that this shift in availability isn't just about time, it's about emotional access. A woman who's still invested in you will make sure you feel included in her life, even when she's busy. But when another man starts to pull her attention, you'll notice she no longer feels the need to check in as much. She doesn't volunteer details about her day like she used to, and she starts giving vague, surface-level answers when you ask how she's doing. She might tell you about her plans in a way that's oddly non-specific, not lying outright, but leaving enough blanks that you have to fill in the story yourself. This vagueness is a defense mechanism. It's her way of creating a buffer between you and the truth of where her mind is going. And the longer this continues, the less connected you feel. Because she's no longer sharing her inner world with you, she's slowly shifting that intimacy to someone else. What makes this first sign so dangerous is how easy it is to explain away. Most men will chalk it up to stress, a busy season at work, or her needing space, because that's easier to swallow than admitting she might be thinking about another guy. And while those explanations can be true, in the modern dating world, more often than not, consistent changes in her time and attention point to her having another emotional option. Women don't usually withdraw from a man they're still fully invested in without a trigger, and that trigger is often the novelty of someone new. Someone who hasn't yet made mistakes in her eyes. Someone who offers the thrill of the unknown while you've become the familiar. It's not about him being better, it's about him being different. And that difference can become intoxicating if she's already feeling restless. If you recognize this first hint in real time, your job is not to panic, confront, or demand answers that only accelerates her drift. Instead, you step back and observe. You let her behavior speak for itself, while you pull your focus back onto yourself. When a woman senses you're too dependent on her attention, she loses respect and desire faster than you can imagine. But when she feels you're fully capable of walking away, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, you regain the psychological upper hand. Because here's the truth, once another man starts taking up mental space in her world, you can't compete by trying harder. You can only regain her interest by making her realize you're not waiting around while she figures it out. That's how you flip the script, by reminding her that you're a man with options, standards, and the strength to walk away if she stops meeting them. The second clear hint that she's got another man on her radar is that she starts emotionally detaching while physically staying close. This is one of the most deceptive shifts because on the surface, she's still around, she's still texting you, she's still meeting up, she's still physically present in the relationship, but emotionally, she's no longer giving you the same energy. She laughs less at your jokes, her enthusiasm when seeing you is muted, and the conversations feel like they've lost their natural flow. It's as if she's running on autopilot, doing just enough to keep the connection alive, but not enough to deepen it. This happens because her emotional energy is being redirected. She's thinking about someone else, replaying his words, wondering what it would feel like to be with him. And while she might not have acted on those feelings yet, her mind is drifting further from you every day. Men often miss this because they confuse proximity with intimacy, but the reality is, she can be sitting right next to you and still be miles away in her mind. One of the clearest ways this emotional detachment shows up is through a change in her body language. Women in love, or even women who are deeply interested, unconsciously lean in, make longer eye contact, and seek out small touches. But when she's emotionally tied to another man, those instincts fade. She'll sit further away without thinking about it. Her hugs will feel less warm. She'll avoid holding your gaze for too long because she doesn't want you to see the conflict in her eyes. Even her tone of voice changes, less soft, less affectionate, more neutral. This doesn't happen overnight, it's a slow erosion. But once it's there, it's hard to reverse because she's now comparing you, whether consciously or not, to the other man. She might still care about you, but you're no longer the one she's pouring her deepest emotional energy into. And when that happens, you've already lost a level of connection that's almost impossible to fake your way back into. What makes this stage even more dangerous for men is that a woman in this position often won't admit to herself what's happening. She'll convince herself that she's just a little bored or going through a phase, anything to avoid facing the reality that she's mentally stepping out of the relationship. This denial allows her to keep you close enough for comfort while exploring emotional excitement elsewhere. You'll notice she's suddenly more guarded with her phone, more protective of her alone time, and less eager to share details about her life. And if you ask what's wrong, she'll likely say nothing, because on paper, she's not doing anything wrong. But emotionally, she's already opened a door that another man is slowly walking through. This is why paying attention to energy shifts is so critical. By the time she admits it to herself, the connection you once had will already be fractured. Here's the part that stings. Men who don't recognize this second hint often respond in the worst possible way. They overcompensate. They sense the emotional distance and try to close it by giving more attention, more affection, more reassurance. They text more often, plan more dates, and go out of their way to prove they're still the man she should choose. But all this does is push her further away, because it highlights the imbalance. She's already mentally invested elsewhere, and your increased effort only reinforces the idea that you're chasing her while she's chasing someone else. Women don't fall back in love because you work harder. They fall back in love when they realize they're losing something valuable. And if you're the one doing all the chasing, you're not showing value, you're showing scarcity. The correct move when you spot this emotional detachment is counterintuitive. You mirror her energy instead of fighting it. If she's pulling back, you don't chase, you create space. If she's giving you half-hearted connection, you match her level instead of over-delivering. This isn't about playing games, it's about protecting your self-respect and preventing yourself from pouring into someone who's already emotionally investing in someone else. When you stop trying to pull her back, two things happen. She either fully drifts away, confirming your suspicions, or she feels the loss of your presence and begins to recalibrate. Either outcome benefits you, because in both cases, you avoid wasting months or years on a woman whose heart is no longer yours. A high-value man knows that his energy is a gift, and if a woman starts spending it elsewhere, he's not afraid to take it back. The third and final major hint, the one that removes all doubt, is when she starts subtly shifting her appearance and habits in ways that have nothing to do with you. Women rarely make big changes without an emotional trigger. If she suddenly changes her style, upgrades her wardrobe, starts going to the gym out of nowhere, or wears more makeup and perfume on casual days, you need to ask yourself a serious question. Who is she doing this for? If you've been together for a while, and she's been consistent in how she presents herself, a sudden reinvention often signals that there's new attention in her life. And if those changes aren't aligned with your tastes, meaning she's not dressing in a way she knows you like, but rather in a way that matches someone else's preferences, that's an even bigger sign. Women instinctively want to impress the man they're most drawn to. If you're no longer that man, the effort will start pointing in another direction. This shift often shows up in small, almost unnoticeable ways at first. She might start wearing a new lipstick shade you've never seen before, styling her hair differently, or buying clothes you know she wouldn't normally pick for herself. At first, you might think she's just experimenting, but the pattern becomes clear when she keeps repeating these changes, especially before events or outings you're not a part of. If she's getting dressed to the nines for girls' nights or work events, but puts in minimal effort when she's with you, it's a red flag that she's redirecting her desire to be desired. And here's the harsh truth. Women often disguise these changes as self-improvement, but deep down they're aligning themselves with the preferences of the man who's been capturing their attention. One of the most telling parts of this appearance shift is how she reacts when you notice. If you compliment her and she brushes it off or acts awkward, almost as if she doesn't want your validation in that moment, it's because you're not the intended audience. She doesn't mind you seeing the change, but she's not doing it for you. That's why her energy feels different. She's not seeking your approval anymore. She's seeking someone else's, whether consciously or subconsciously. And when that happens, she's no longer feeding the attraction in your relationship. She's feeding the attraction in a fantasy she's building with another man. This is the moment where many men make the biggest mistake of all. They try to compete. They start hitting the gym harder, dressing better, buying new clothes, or overhauling their own look to match her newfound energy. And while self-improvement is always a good thing, doing it as a reactive move to keep a woman's attention rarely works. Why? Because the game has already shifted. You're no longer the man she's magnetized toward. She's mentally chasing someone else, and you're scrambling to keep up. That desperation bleeds through, no matter how subtle you think you're being. And when she senses you're trying to win her back by changing yourself, it only validates her subconscious belief that you're the one trying to catch up, while the other man is the one setting the pace. The only way to handle this third hint with strength is to remain unshaken. You acknowledge the changes, but you don't cling. You don't interrogate her or beg for answers. You observe, you note the patterns, and you decide what they mean for your own future in the relationship. If she's shifting her energy toward another man, you're not going to fight for her attention. You're going to take your attention somewhere it's valued without competition. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. The moment a man learns to walk away from a woman who's emotionally drifting is the moment he becomes untouchable. Because while she might have another man in mind now, there's nothing more haunting to a woman than realizing the man she's neglecting has the strength to let her go without a backward glance. That's when the regret sets in, but by then, you've already moved on. Once you've seen all three hints, the emotional withdrawal, the selective availability, and the sudden changes in appearance, you have to understand that you're not looking at random mood swings. You're looking at an emotional migration. A woman doesn't just pack her emotional bags overnight. She does it in small, quiet moves, piece by piece, until one day you wake up and realize the version of her you loved isn't there anymore. The laughter is gone, the warmth is gone, the spark in her eyes when she looks at you is gone. And the mistake most men make is pretending it's just a phase. They try to ride it out, assuming she'll come back to the way she was. But attraction doesn't work like that. Once her energy shifts toward another man, every day you tolerate it without setting a boundary tells her she's right to drift further away. Here's what you need to know. She's not going to admit it. She's not going to sit you down and say, "I'm emotionally interested in another man." Most women would rather die than speak those words out loud, because admitting them forces her to confront the fact that she's being disloyal, even if she hasn't physically cheated yet. Instead, she'll wrap it up in excuses. "I'm just busy, I'm stressed, I need some space," or "I'm focusing on myself." All of those lines are designed to soften the truth and buy her more time to explore the fantasy she's building in her head with someone else. And if that fantasy gets enough oxygen, it will burn hotter than anything she feels for you. This is where most men's self-worth gets tested. Do you stay and fight for someone who's already halfway out the door, or do you protect your dignity and leave on your own terms? The weak man convinces himself that he can win her back if he just tries harder. He becomes more accommodating, more understanding, more available, not realizing that every time he does this, he's pushing her further toward the other man. The strong man takes the opposite route. He doesn't compete, he doesn't explain himself, and he doesn't try to force the connection back. He knows that love, when genuine, doesn't need to be begged for. The moment it needs to be begged for, it's no longer love, it's control. And here's the harsh irony. If you do pull back, there's a very high chance she'll suddenly show you a wave of affection again, not because she's realized she wants you, but because she feels the loss of your attention and doesn't want to let go of the safety net you provide. This is the push-pull game that women often play unconsciously. They'll keep one man around for emotional stability while chasing the excitement of another. But if you fall for that sudden burst of affection and come running back, the cycle repeats. She'll get comfortable again, the distance will creep back in, and the slow fade will resume until she's ready to fully make the jump. The real power move isn't to punish her or play games. It's to completely remove yourself from the equation the moment you see the pattern. Not in a dramatic, vengeful way. No angry texts, no ultimatums, no long explanations about how she's hurting you. Just silence, just absence, just a cold reality of your presence no longer being available for her to fall back on. Because women underestimate how final it feels when a man with genuine value, self-respect, and options decides he's done. They think they can drift away, come back when they want, and you'll always be there. Showing them otherwise forces them to confront what they've lost, and that's when regret starts to eat at them. The interesting thing about this shift is how it changes her perception of you after you're gone. In the moment, she may be convinced that the other man is a better choice. He's exciting, he's mysterious, he's different. But once the initial high wears off, and it always does, she'll start comparing him to you. She'll remember the security, the loyalty, the consistency you brought to the table. And while she may never admit it to you directly, she'll feel that sting of regret every time she's reminded of you. This is why walking away with dignity is so powerful. You let her own her decision without giving her the satisfaction of seeing you broken. Men often underestimate the long-term impact of disappearing on a woman who took them for granted. At first, she'll be relieved, she'll feel free, she'll convince herself she made the right decision. But over time, the reality sinks in. Not every man is willing to give her the kind of attention, care, and consistency you did. And the kind of man she was chasing may not even want her long-term. When that happens, the fantasy shatters, and she's left standing in the wreckage of her own choices. But by then, the door is closed. You've moved on. You're not an option anymore, and that's what haunts her the most. Understand this. A woman's attraction is rooted in how she feels around you. If she's emotionally connected to another man, she'll start seeking that feeling from him instead. You can't logic her back into loving you. You can't outgive or outcare your way back into her heart. All you can do is recognize the signs early and decide whether you're willing to be the man she's drifting away from, or the man who respects himself enough to step away. Most men fail this test because they're too afraid of losing her, but what they don't realize is that the moment they start tolerating less than they deserve, they've already lost her. The truth is, every man will face this situation at some point. It's almost a rite of passage. You'll meet a woman, you'll connect, and for a while, everything will feel perfect. Then, slowly, the signs will appear. Her energy shifts. Her availability changes. Her appearance evolves in ways that don't include you, and you'll have to decide, do I hold on tighter or do I let go completely? The men who cling end up bitter, drained, and resentful. The men who let go walk away with their power intact, and that power is worth more than any relationship you could ever have with a woman who doesn't fully choose you. So here's the takeaway. When you see the 3 hints, emotional withdrawal, selective availability, and appearance changes aimed elsewhere, don't wait for her to confirm it. Don't wait for proof. Don't wait until she admits it or until you catch her red-handed. By the time those signs are clear, the emotional shift has already happened. Walking away in that moment isn't weakness. It's the ultimate act of strength. It's telling her and yourself that you refuse to be anyone's second choice. And that kind of self-respect doesn't just protect you in this situation, it makes you a man who will never again be trapped in the exhausting game of trying to win over someone who's already given her heart to someone else.